Chapter 3. Cadence didn't allow herself to shudder. Lucifer was tall, muscled like a warrior, and sensually handsome, despite the dark inferno raging in his eyes. But he did not compare to the beast who guarded his domain, the beast whose face was too rough to be considered anything other than savage, the beast whose massive body should have frightened her but only made her feel safe, the beast whose monstrous appearance should have disgusted her but didn't. Instead, his brown eyes she had once considered impassive, but after today now saw as haunted, captivated her. And of course his protective nature intrigued her. She might never have become interested in the guardian, might have continued to assume he was like every other hated creature here, but then he had saved her life that first time. Sadly, even immortal goddesses could be slain, a prospect that had never been clearer as the outer gates had parted to welcome a spirit and a minion slipped free, racing toward her, hungry for living flesh. She had frozen, knowing her death was imminent. The guardian, what was his name, had intervened, destroying the fiend with one swipe of his poisoned claw before it had made contact with her. He hadn't spoken to her afterward, and she hadn't spoken to him. Her belief that he was like all the other creatures in this underworld, shaken but not yet completely broken. She had begun to study him, though, over time, she had become fascinated by his complexities. He was a destroyer, yet he had saved her. He had nothing, yet he hadn't asked for anything in exchange. How rare that was! How strange! How welcome! She now wanted to do something for him, anything, as she had told him, and for one stolen moment she had thought he had meant to request a kiss. His gaze had fallen to her lips and lingered. Utter longing had radiated from him. Please, she had almost begged. Her heart rate had sped up. Her mouth had watered. What would he taste like? But then his expression had cleared. He had looked away and shaken his head no. Her disappointment had nearly felled her. Push him, however, she would not do. He had already done so much for her. Still, she couldn't help but wonder. Hope. Did he favor her in return? For that stolen moment, she would have sworn she saw white-hot flames in his eyes, flames that had nothing to do with the damned. Am I so boring you cannot grant me your attention after you summoned me? Twice. The question returned her to the present, and she could have slapped herself. Do you want to lose this match of wits with the Prince of Darkness? Boring? She shrugged. To say yes would be asking him to liven things up. To say no would be telling him she enjoyed him. in his mind at least. Neither would end well for her. Lucifer regarded her silently as he settled atop his throne. Instantly, swirling, ghostly souls began writhing between the bones and ash. A bejeweled goblet materialized, already clutched in his hand, and he sipped from it. A drop of crimson slid down the corner of his mouth and trickled onto his stark white shirt. Blood. Revulsion besieged her, but she kept her expression neutral. "You are disgusted by me, but do not show it," he said with another of those wicked smiles. "Where is the mouse who usually visits? The one who trembles and stumbles over her words? I like her better." Cadence raised her chin. She could call her all the names he wished, but she wouldn't comment. "Your walls have been compromised, and a horde of demons fights to escape." The prince quickly lost his smile. "You lie. They would not dare." His agitation was understandable. Without his legends, he would have no one to rule. "You're right. Your band of thieves, rapists, and murderers would not dare disobey their sovereign." His eyes narrowed in a show of anger, one he quickly masked by shrugging casually. "So the walls are compromised. What do you expect me to do about it?" She should not have been surprised. Always he made things difficult. "The Guardian. He can help me stop the ones responsible. But as you own his soul, he must first gain your permission." Lucifer snorted. "No, I will not grant it. Not for any reason. I like him where he is." "Yes, difficult." "Why?" "I need a reason." "Well then, let's see, let's see." He tapped his chin with a fingertip. "What about my last god fell victim to a demon's lies and almost allowed a legend to escape?" A lie of his own? The guardian, she knew, had been here far longer than she, so she did not know if anyone else had ever stood in his place. This one could just as easily fall. Now that was a lie. No one was more determined. There would be no falling, not for him. "No." Lucifer shook his head. "Geryon is impervious to their wiles." Geryon, finally, a name, Greek in origin, meaning monster. She didn't like it. He was more than his appearance, far more. "Nothing else to say?" Lucifer asked. "Shall we part then?" She barely stopped herself from running her tongue over her teeth. Was this a game he played? He needed the wall repaired as much as she did. Well, not as much as she did, she mused. Unlike her, he would not die if the wall crumbled. Still, his resistance grated. With that thought, she answered her own question. Yes, this was a game, one she would not tolerate. "I am your sovereign," she said. You will? You are not my sovereign, he growled in another display of anger. Another display he quickly hid. A single breath in and out, and he visibly calmed. You are my observer. You watch, you advise, and you protect, but you do not command. Because you are too weak, he did not say. But then he didn't have to. They both knew it was true. She wanted to be different, strong. She truly did. And she should have been. Once she had been. Her very nature was one of subjugation, after all. For others, though, and not herself. Or that's the way it had been. Why was she like this now? You know the answer, and you would do well to forget it. She squared her shoulders, realizing she would have to play Lucifer's game after all. There was no way. You can do this. For Geryon. I believe I offered to bargain with you, and you were amenable. Shall we begin? She asked sulkily. He nodded, as if he had merely been waiting for the question all along. We shall. Gates of Hell. I do not understand, Geryon said, refusing to leave his post. He even crossed his arms over his chest, an action that reminded him of his human days, when he had been more than god, more than monster. Lucifer would never have agreed to release me from his care. I promise you, he agreed. You are free. The goddess cast her gaze to her sandaled feet, saying no more on the subject. Finally! Did she hide something? Plan to trick him for whatever reason? It had been so long since he had dealt with a female, he wasn't sure how to judge her actions. Her, though, he wanted to believe anything and everything she said. And that was what scared him most. She could destroy him and his poor heart, or rather what remained of it, if anything did. She was paler than usual, he noted, the rosy glow in her cheeks gone, her freckles stark. Her golden ringlets tumbled down her shoulders and arms, and he could see soot woven throughout the fine strands. His hands ached to reach out, to sift those tresses through his fingers. Would she run screaming if he did so? Probably. Today she wore a violet robe and a matching necklace, a necklace that boasted a teardrop amethyst as large as his fist and as bright as the glistening ice of his homeland. Ice he had not seen in hundreds of years. She had never worn such a thing before. Usually she draped herself in white, an angel among evil, with no adornment. How? He persisted. Why? And why do you look so sad? Does it matter? Her gaze lifted, boring into him with the precision of a spear and a cutting just as deep. There was fury blended with her sadness. He did not like either. This female should only ever be happy. To me, yes. But only because it was necessary to his survival. Anything else, and he might have caved then and there, given her whatever she desired, even follow her into the fires behind him as she had first requested. She gave a little stomp of her foot. To save the wall, I need your help. Let that be enough of an answer for now. You know Lucifer would not want it to fall. Her fingers beckoned him. Come, see the damage that has been done on this side. See why I must cross over. The goddess did not await his reply. She turned away from him and walked to the far corner of the wall. No, not walked, she glided. A dream of falling stars amid shimmering twilight. Why do you want to survive? What good does living do you? Geryon hesitated only a moment before following her, breathing deeply of her honeysuckle scent along the way. To his surprise, no one jumped from the shadows as he walked. No one waited to punish him for daring to leave his post. Was he truly free? Dare he hope? The goddess didn't face him when he reached her, but traced a fingertip along a thin, jagged groove in the middle stone. A groove that branched into similar striations, like tiny rivers flowing from a churning ocean. It's small, I know, but already it has grown from what I saw yesterday. If the demons continue their abuse, it will continue to grow until the rock splits completely in two, allowing legends to enter the human realm. Were a single demon released upon the unsuspecting world, he muttered, death and destruction would reign. Whether or not a punishment would be delivered to him, he would help her, Geryon decided. He could not allow such a thing to happen. Innocence should never be taken from the undeserving. It was too precious. If I do this, if I help you. Still, she didn't face him. Yes, a breathy sigh. I will earn that boon, whatever I desire. How selfish he was to ask, he thought. But then he did not take the words back. Yes. No hesitation. Still breathing. What did she think he would ask for? Then so be it. I accept. I will lead you into hell, goddess.